Okay, one of the main characters, this is her introduction. One more week before the treaty is signed, Timbrel thought. Then it'll be safe to return to the human lands. She bent back to the moist clay of the swollen riverbank, her fingers groping along the oak's roots to find the round swellings of the bloodroot fungi. Her fingers circled a walnut-sized globe, expertly twisting the nodule loose. A few more bloodroots and some silvergrass, and she would be ready. The air pressure changed and an arrow whistled past, pinning a half-dozen strands of her sun-gold hair to the oak's trunk. A second knocked her basket of bloodroot fungi aside. She flattened herself into the muddy bank before turning her head to look. She glimpsed movement just as the deep chuckle of her tormentor reached her. Vaughn. For a moment, the girl remembered the torments of her childhood. 5 years older than Timbrel, Yvonne Hay had been as victimized by the older children as Timbrel. Quiet and without friends, the full-blooded Rivali elf seemed to blossom when he devised fresh torments for her. Round ears, human spawn, half-blood. The insults still rang in her memory, along with all the beatings she had taken. More than once she'd bled in mud puddles, only to be punished again at home for arriving in less than pristine condition. Vaughn stole her jewelry on feast days and locked it away, at least until she learned to open the locks and retrieve the precious heirlooms. Vaughn chased her and dragged her by the hair until she learned to run fleetly. Vaughn stalked her like a beast even now. A branch snapped under his foot, and she looked up. He sneered down at her from 5 feet away. Your knees are muddy, half-blood, kneeling in the mud like the slave you ought to be. Better pick up your precious weeds. Timbrel scooped the bloodroot nodules back into her basket. It's a shame you cannot understand about herbs and healing. Vaughn might have mastered his weapons, she thought, but he did not yet have a true warrior's respect for healers. A healer, Vaughn scoffed. The Genjin created us healthy. We are strong, we never catch disease, our injuries heal quickly. What makes you think you have any use? The Rivali are not the only people in this land. Timbrel stood and wiped the thick mud from her chest and belly. Vaughn's jaw went slack as his eyes widened. Timbrel inhaled, enhancing the effect. Vaughn stood staring. His pale face, prominent cheekbones, and ice-blue almond-shaped eyes might have been termed handsome if he didn't scowl so often. So is this a social visit, or did you just want target practice? The warrior's jaw snapped shut with an audible click. He glared at the girl, then glanced at the sun high in the sky and smiled. Actually, he began in a honey-sweet voice, I carry a message for you. Go on. The Rivali High Council requests your presence. Vaughn's smile broadened. I am to escort you. Tomorrow, she asked. The smile became an evil grin. Today, when the sun is high, I've been searching for you all morning. Timbrel glanced at the sky. If she left now and ran, she would barely make it to the council on time, with no chance to clean up. Yet another way to torment her. She did not show her anger, instead lifting her hand toward the warrior. Since you've delayed me already, do you think you might help me up the bank? When he reached down with a smug expression, she planted a muddy hand on his shoulder, pulled his arm, and kicked sharply backward against the bank. Vaughn overbalanced and landed under Timbrel as they hit the mud. She wiggled against him, then scrambled up and onto high ground before he could react. See you at the council. She tucked a cloth over the nodules in her basket, gathered her muddy skirts scandalously high, and ran straight for the council meeting.
What? Is it the first chapter?
No, that's actually the second chapter, okay. Second or third chapter.
Okay.
Where she crosses paths with the other main character. She decides that she's going to go buy some cheese, and she runs into a lot of prejudice against elves at the place. Because, after all, there was a war just 30 years ago. That's when the ceasefire went, and they still haven't quite allied since then. Eventually, it starts practically a brawl. And then one voice, lost in the crowd, shouted back, "We don't need no money from a slimy elf." Very well, then I'll buy the cheese. Nayev stood. The nearby patrons blanched and leapt away from his table, leaving their meals and drink behind as they scrambled for the far side of the inn. They crowded onto benches and pushed other patrons from stools, and some edged their way along the walls to the door. Alone now at his table, Nayev pushed his hood back to reveal hair as golden as the woman's. "Come, friends, I'll buy you a drink." He sat back on his stool. The two warriors pushed across the room to stand by the woman. She cradled her cheese and carefully paid the innkeeper. "I'll pay for my own cheese." She glanced at Nayev, revealing sapphire blue eyes. "But I think we will join you for a drink." As they turned, ready to push through the crowd, the patrons melted away from their path like water receding from the shore. The warriors waited until the woman seated herself across the table before sitting down on either side. "Nayev of the mountains, at your service." He stood again and bowed slightly, smiling at the woman. The taller warrior, with silver white hair and an unlined face, answered in kind. "I am Chris, he is Jarek, and she is Lady Timbrel." Jarek nodded, his brown braid pulling free of his cloak. Timbrel blushed from her cheeks to her ears, then as quickly paled. Nayev studied her. She used a human name. Her thoughts flitted about from interest in him to sorrow at a village of dead bodies to anticipation of the taste of the cheese. He blinked and sat back. Her mind voice sounded as strong as that of most dragons. As he thought of dragons, he noted a faint scent of dragon clung to the woman. He tried to look deeper into her thoughts, but they whirled so quickly his head hurt trying to follow them. In self-defense, he shielded his mind. It left him vulnerable to surprise, but allowed him to get to know these travelers better, especially this elf woman. Half-elf, he corrected himself. How had that happened? He signaled the barmaid. "My friends and I will have some forest wine." Timbrel spoke up. "Forest wine for them, I'll have an ale." After the barmaid set down the light brown ale and the bright green wine, Jarek stood. "Lady Timbrel, I will pack your cheese. Saren no doubt needs help with the horses anyway. Nayev, good to meet you." As the patron slipped out the door, a horse neighed in the distance, nearly drowning out Saren's pleas to settle down. The barmaid walked by with a tray of bread and meat. "Can I bring you something?" Jarek stepped over to her tray, grabbed a round loaf and 2 pieces of meat in a long-fingered hand. "These will do." He hefted the cheese in his other arm and left. Nayev burst out laughing at the girl's confused expression and tossed 2 copper bits to her. "You can bring us a similar tray." "With cheese," Timbrel added. "With cheese and meat both, after you refill your tray and bring it to that other table. I apologize for my friend."
I'm sorry,
The barmaid scampered off to the kitchens.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.